Alrighty. Welcome to another Geek Out episode. Today we are talking about Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. And,
Yes.
oh, sorry, did you say something?
Oh, I was saying yes. You kind of paused there. So, by Frank Herbert, the father of sci-fi. Geek Out number 45. On our way to the big 5-0 happening next month. Well, bam.
Yeah. Speaking of which, special thank you to all of our subscribers, all 200 of them.
Yes.
That is a what is it? A small leap or small step for mankind, but a giant leap for man. Something like that. Some poetic justice about hey look, I made it.
Yes, we made it. Quite the milestone. The way these things work, though, we'll probably hit the milestone a couple times before we exceed it, just because when it comes to subscriber counts, a lot of times it's two steps forward, one step back sort of a deal. But yeah, salute to 200 subscribers, Geek Out number 45. And I am super excited to geek out with Pete on Dune Messiah. Dune is one of my favorite sci-fi series. It's been a long
Yeah,
time since I
this
listened to Messiah, though. Probably my least favorite of the series. Sorry, go ahead, Pete. Your first time through it.
so for my first time through it, there are a lot of similarities to book one, but I didn't get a lot of what I enjoy about sci-fi. Like I don't think I got a single battle scene. We killed a couple people, but that was just kind of like, haha, I knew it all along until the very
Mm-hmm.
end. But
Yeah, granted, it's probably almost been 10 years since I listened to this the first time, which is still relatively new in the Frank Herbert Dune fanboy club, considering it came out, I believe, in the 60s. Yet, one of the big challenges for me when I was first listening to Messiah is like, as good as it didn't fulfill a lot of the promises and expectations I had at the end of book one. At the end of the book one, it's all about his prescience and us leading up to the Butlerian Jihad, his religious scourge across the universe as he takes over as the emperor, and his Fremen Legion goes and conquers the known world. And you start out book two with 12 years later, everything's under control now. And oh, by the way, we're going to tell you about this plot to overthrow him and all these key players involved in it as we overthrow Paul Muad'Dib Atreides. And one of the things I really enjoy about Frank Herbert, and you'll see this as you continue the series, no one writes like him in his omnipresent fashion of, I'm going to tell you all these pieces that are going to happen because we're dealing with this sense of the future and the people that can perceive the future. And so, like, hey, let's give you some snapshots about after his reign is over and everything, and you're kind of like in the early stages of it. And you even get some of the bits and pieces from Paul as he kind of like hints about how things are going to end. And it's so unique that books 7 and 8 were finished by his son and another co-author, and they don't even try to mimic his writing style. It's just completely different, yet still in the
Universe.
Dune universe, wrapping up the series. So
So yeah, that was
give me your thoughts, Pete. Like you're new to the Dune averse or whatever you want to call it.
book one was satisfying. We were the prophesied child. We overcame the odds. We learned a little bit of lore about the Bene Gesserits and him being the, oh, I forget the word for it.
Oh, gosh, not the Messiah, the oh man,
Anyway,
brain fart.
so besides that, him
Quizar
being,
Sadarak.
yeah,
Yeah,
him
yeah.
being the Mac Daddy of seeing into the future and seeing the male side of things and into time and space. And just the time hop threw me off because like we made it, we're there, and I wanted to
Hmm.
see him coming into it, but it was like 12 years later, and
Yeah.
it did the same thing like it did in the first one. In the first one, I really liked how we got to see both sides and it kind of played out. Second one does it similar yet different because we get to see both sides again, and then there was a little bit of a twist at the end, and it's all political games where they want to get their spice back. They want to get their crop back so that they can
Sure. Sure.
continue to have a monopoly on it. And the whole bit with excuse me, with oh, it's not Golem, it's
Gola. It's with an like an
Gola.
A sound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Duncan. And so it's all like, oh, I'm going to be what destroys you. But just kidding. I'm going to be a way to persuade you because I brought your best friend back. And just like that was a bit of a twist. And nothing happened because of it. Because we end up killing the majority of the people who were involved. And I
Yes.
think there's still a couple out there, but it's all of like a build up or continuation. This book wasn't very satisfying, but it made me want more by the end because through the male power and through Paul's son being able to lend him his sight and all that extra, very
Hmm.
similar to the way his sister was able to give her vision or give her memory to, oh god, I'm so bad at names. I'm sorry. The put your hand in this box lady.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The main Reverend Mother something Mohaya, maybe? Does
Anyway,
that sound right?
she's dead now.
She's dead now. Yeah, it's been a while since I really dove deep into the Dune universe, but I remember reading at one point, and as other fanboys come up and watch this, and please leave comments in the below if I misspeak or misquote, but I believe when Frank Herbert was originally writing book two after book one, he got so much fan mail about how they liked Duncan, Idaho, that he found a way to bring him back and incorporate him. And the way that book one reads, it's really a solid standalone. Like I think we were talking about it.
Everybody's confused. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people who I've talked to where they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great book." And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Go
But
on.
right, but they
Isn't it
don't
a
continue.
series?" They're
Right.
like, "No, I'm pretty sure there's only one." I'm like, I thought there was like 6 or 8 or
Yeah, depending on who you talk to, there's six by the father and then two by the son. And then those are the only two that I've read done by the son because I wanted to finish out the series. And while it's not the same as Frank Herbert's, I still enjoy them. There's a lot of people that are just like, no, there's only six books. There's not eight. There's only six. It's like, well, yeah, okay, okay. Anyway,
You've got to respect it for what it is.
exactly.
Side tangent. When you have a musical artist and you like what they did prior and they try something new and you're like, that's not the same. You're not real. And then the other side's like, Pinocchio, I am a real boy.
What they need to do is
Creative freedom.
take a little bit of the melange and expand their mind and their perspective of the universe and just let the spice flow. Yet, the Sun supposedly has a handful of books that do like the actual jihad, goes and explores the different houses and the lore and everything involved there. So, um, yeah.
And I told you I would look it up, and I still haven't, but it's essentially like a AVO or something. It's like an
Mm,
alternate something something.
yeah,
Anyway,
I know what you're talking
essentially it
about.
means, hey, I'm writing this book in this universe, but it's not canon. It's not from the original author. It's not
Hmm.
a continuation of the story. It's just
Right,
me
right.
playing in the space in addition to
Like a parallel universe, not quite here and now, but close enough that
all
you
that or
know the
side quests
rules.
or side
Yeah,
arcs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but bringing it back to Messiah, um, this book is very much let's expand the world. Let's give you more of the Bene Gesserit, more of the Guild Space Liners, more of the
Face dancers.
the face
Like, okay, I
dancers,
did
the
enjoy
Benny Trelaxu. I'm butchering that. Sorry, you did enjoy.
I did enjoy the way that we you follow both storylines throughout it and the
Hmm.
way everybody's setting everything up, but it's just weird because they can both see the future but they can't see each other, and the
Hmm.
whole time the guild navigators are like trying to maneuver him into position, and the whole time Paul's like disengage, like I
Yes.
can't look further because then I'll leave a trail. I need to, utilize what I've already foreseen because there's an opportunity to get out and to escape.
Right. And there's also a lot that we didn't get from this book, right? He's supposed to be the one that can see everything and access his different ancestral memories on both like the female and the male side of things. And we really don't get a whole lot of that. We know that he's capable of it. We know that he's able to see into the future, but we really don't get a whole lot of that in this book. And this book is so short compared to the other books in the series.
Well, and that's where the ending, and it just made me want so much more at that point because for him, he's already had his 12-year reign and he's pretty much defeated where he is stuck. He has no more
Hmm.
freedom and he's been, pretty much assigned for this role. And then for the ending, when his son allows him to see through his eyes and he, throws that knife into the chick's eye and takes her out.
Yeah.
Um, like the son also gives him like flashbacks of all of the line and whatnot.
Hmm.
But there's also that time gap for when they didn't have someone who could access the male side. But yeah, they dive deeper into a lot of it because we get to see Duncan as a
Gola.
bunch of different things.
Oh, yeah,
Where
yeah.
he's like starts with an M. It's a computer, but not a computer.
Kind of like oh man,
It's the logical side of things. Like you
right,
can't
a
lie.
mentat and
Yeah.
a Zuni philosopher or whatnot. So like he's been trained as like an extreme philosopher and a human computer, and he's a sword master, right? So
Well, and
like,
that's one of the funny things because the way it's portrayed in this book, it's so abstract, like what? But at the same time, I think it's pretty common where you kind of put on that lens or you put on that hat where you're like, I'm gonna dial into this. This is what I'm gonna work on. This is yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we touched on it briefly, and again, I've read the whole series. You're current with book two. What did you think about the fact that Janie and the doctors knew that she was pregnant with twins, yet um, Paul, like he's been blinded, he is able to act as if he's not because he's so locked into this path that he can see everything, everybody's actions, et cetera, but all up until the point where he only saw one kid and there's actually two kids, right?
Well,
Like,
it's just like the guild navigators, they have consumed the spice and have the
mm,
power and can see into
hmm
the future, which makes it so that you can't see them. And since that's where his vision ended, and because the son obviously has the powers due to the mother having to consume vast copious amounts of the spice,
hmm
like that's all I thought of that was the
yeah,
son is essentially like his sister was, where they've been awakened.
yeah. I'm going to go back to the very beginning of book one. And so this isn't any spoilers, but uh, Jessica was supposed to give them a girl. That way, the next generation in the breeding program, which they've been, the Bene Gesserit have been working on for, hundreds of generations to get to the Kwisatz Haderach, or however you say it, um, next generation. So Paul was something unexpected. He wasn't planned for, but now we're at the next generation and you have his kids, which I want to say book three is Children of Dune. So foreshadowing there, I'd love to continue the series. We'll see. We need to sit down and look at our lineup for next month because it's a bit of a crazy month with all the books coming out that we want to talk about. But yeah, so both the kids, um, Gadnima and Leto, were able to focus their eyes just like his sister was. And yeah, they kind of have the little conversation with Paul there before he does the bait and switch and takes off into the desert after he's yelling, "I'm free." Um, what do you?
Yeah, and so one of the things that makes me want more and didn't quite come together was the guild navigators and the whole bad guys wanted the Gola to get together with the sister, and
Mm-hmm,
that happens. But
mm-hmm,
I wasn't so sure like what else was with it, because part of it was to get Duncan to come back and to be himself again, which ends up happening anyway.
right.
But now they're a thing. So,
They are a thing.
and the couple
The
that we didn't end up killing.
loyal Duncan, Idaho, and you get to see a bit of that.
And the
Uh,
age gap is huge, but it's one of those like old souls in a young
mm,
body. Yeah, because he was
yeah,
there when she was born, and she's like, what?
but he is a Gola, so he's in a younger body, right?
Not by
So
much, because they had to preserve the body right after death.
yeah, yeah, but it's not like a zombie type thing. It's more of they take the cells to create a new one. So
Eh,
he is a
So
approximately
it's stem cells, more or
uh,
less, where you
more or less.
rebuild it from the original data.
Yes, yes. Like I can't
I thought it, because
say.
they only talk about rebuilding the brain
So I
or
think
rebuilding the head. Because
part
I
of
thought it was
this,
like the original flesh.
part of this is probably got fleshed out more, wording there as the series progressed. But taking my knowledge from later and kind of what they hinted at, they did say he was in a younger body in this book. So
Okay.
he is Duncan, Idaho. But as far as like actual chronological age goes, they have very clear control of, kind of like you're saying, like stem cells and like unnatural ways of manipulation that the Bene Gesserit really frown upon. But
I was going to say, weren't they
he got
completely against that?
the Bene Gesserit are, which is why when he's negotiating with
The mother or whatever.
Mother Mahaya or whatever, she's so outraged, and that's part of his manipulation there. But they took the dead Duncan Idaho and preserved his cells and then pretty much like regrew him. So chronologically, he's approximately the same age as Paul's sister because she was like 2. No, he's probably close to the same age as his sister because um, Duncan died at the very beginning or partway through book 1. So that was before she was born. So if they took the cells and put it in the axolotl tanks and grew him again, he would be approximately the same age as her, give or take.
All right. Yeah, I'm
Granted, there's
just,
some additional manipulation that I can do because I mean, look at the face dancers, right? Like they're
yeah.
clearly, um, there's genetic manipulation there. But the Golas are not face dancers. The Golas are pretty much like clones in a way, but not like clones.
Yeah. And there's a lot of I guess, things they say that never really get fleshed out because, like, Paul and all his jazz being able to see into the future.
Hmm.
But then you also have, like, the oracles who are not the same thing or the female side of things. And then you've got
Right.
the face dancers that can also, like, adopt a persona of people.
Hmm.
And the irony is just unreal because we literally just did Boba Verse Book 4, and throughout his whole double agent, 007
Yeah.
subterfuge stuff, he does essentially the face dancing where he changes his features to match other people on the street and to
Hmm.
hide. So I got a kick out of that. Side
The
note, not alike at all, but
well, not exactly, but one of the reasons why I strongly recommend people check out Dune, even if it's not really their flavor, is so much of science fiction and fantasy is influenced by it that even if you don't enjoy it or it's not really your thing, it's worth picking up as a fan of literature simply because so much inspiration gets drawn from it that once you see it, you can't unsee it in everything else that you read. So, like, you get a little bit further in the series, and book 4 is by far my favorite, God Emperor of Dune. Um, but the further you get in, then all of a sudden you start seeing all the other similarities and all the other influences. Like I'm sure you can already see some with like Star Wars, and George Lucas clearly says that like Dune influenced him. Brandon Sanderson, one of our favorites, has called out and clearly said that Dune has influenced him. Um, like thinking about Galaxy's Edge and how far we got, like you can see similarities there with Dune and everything. Just so much of science fiction has been influenced by Dune. Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Like
a
it's
Go
It
ahead.
does things differently. It's good.
Hmm.
I know it's older.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fun. It's a necessary book for the series if you're going to continue it because it really sets us up. It kind of ends Paul Atreides' chapter for us because at the end of the book
Well,
he goes out into the desert and he gets everything set up for his kids to watch him. Um,
that was one of the things that I was proud of Frank for. He
yeah,
kills off like 90% of our main characters.
there's no main character
But
immunity here.
but he doesn't, because we literally just brought back Duncan and Paul still has
We don't have a body.
his powers. Yeah, but
They talk about him being
it's
dead.
kind of like the kid who got abandoned in the forest and got raised by wolves, but has the power to see the future and fell into a pit of spice, similar to how he transmuted or whatever you say for the first time he took the water of life
Oh
in
yeah, yeah.
book one, where essentially he was knocked out and almost dead for so long and his body didn't need the nourishment. So I could
Hmm.
just see, I don't know, pure speculation, I could just see him like falling into a pit of spice, going on this epic journey where he sees forever into the future, and then
Uh,
he FTPs over to his son and just
yeah,
downloads
yeah.
all the data. Anyway,
Some
so
crazy trip.
not relevant at all, but kind of relevant. I had kind of like a moment listening to this book where I was like, I'm pretty sure this is like a couple people just sitting in the room tripping and, you know, thinking 10 steps ahead, doing their three-dimensional chess.
In a lot of ways, like that's exactly what it is. They're all just tripping on melange, right? Like, oh, I see the future. Um, yeah, yeah. What did you think about Stilgard's transformation in this book? Like, we met him pretty early on in book one, and he was, for lack of better words, like this extreme warrior savage, where in book one, um, while he really bonded with Muad'Dib and embraced him, they were escalating for like a fight of rulers, right? Where everybody was planning and counting on Paul to challenge him for leader of the tribe, right?
He plays a critical role, and I am glad he was there. He is essentially the good friend who's gonna smack you around and tell you to get your stuff together. He
Mm-hmm.
was good for the storyline for advocating for the Frenum and to bring and put that into perspective.
Yeah.
I'm like, Paul needed him to ground him and not let the whole, I am the one true God run his life.
Yeah.
Um, but in book one, like you were talking about, where they're about to have to fight for being a Frenum, and Paul pretty much sidesteps it, where he's like, hey, you know, I'm the prophecy, and we're no longer playing by those rules, so here's the rule book,
Why would I
and I
why would
can't
I
do
cut
it.
off my right hand, you know?
Yeah. And then kind of like, oh, Gurney, when he comes back and he tries to kill the mother, and
Mm-hmm.
then he's like, "Oh, kill me," and the mom's like, "Why am I supposed to kill all my friends?" Like,
We didn't see Gurney in book two, did we?
or didn't he die?
I was just thinking about that, and then I remembered some other pieces, but we don't see him in book two.
Oh, well, I
Duncan
wanted to
died.
see more of him
He's a fun
because,
character.
like, he's
Always
a
a
fun
quote in a song.
character. Oh, he had a lot of quotes at the beginning, and I enjoyed that, but he didn't have so many at the end. It was more of a like wishful thinking,
Hmm.
wishing he was there.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to think what else other characters we missed out on. Um,
Well, the mother, or well, okay, so sorry. There's the mother Benny Gesserit person, and then
mhm,
there's Paul's actual mother, who
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah.
She was like there, but not there, because they have the whole like, oh, insert voice translator modifier thingy into people. Oh, but Paul doesn't use them. He uses, people with their own voice or something, something, something.
Hmm.
Anyway, so Paul's mom like isn't there, but is there, but then sends a letter to the daughter, and she
Hmm.
has that whole like, wow, this is so primitive.
Yeah, well, she's there because she's in the daughter, right? As far as like ancestral memories up until the point of conception for her. Yet, yeah, we don't get to see a whole lot of Jessica. We don't get to see Gurney. Those are the two big ones. We hear about some of the other key players, but they're not really that crucial. Like the previous emperor has pretty much been banished to his home world. We get a little bit of the Sardaukar through running their something landings. I'm trying to think. Not really like spaceship landings because that's the guild, but pretty much like aircraft landings and everything. And Paul's like, oh, that's just your policing force. Like you don't really need to do that. Keep it in check or else.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's another one of those things that Frank does that's, I guess, not very common in literature today, where there's I guess, arranged marriage if it's a
mm,
time for being older, but
hmm.
then he's got a mistress.
Yeah, consort, I believe is what they call it or whatnot, right? But yeah. So Erelon, who we see in the beginning getting recruited to the plot to overthrow him, and then all the different factions, the Bene Gesserit, the Guild, everyone who's kind of been displaced by Paul, they're all plotting, and she just wants to be heir to a dynasty,
But
right?
that's the training or programming of what she is. And we see a lot of that in one where
Mm-hmm.
the mother's like, I live to serve. The one thing that didn't get fully fleshed out that makes you want more is someone stole a worm, but
Yes.
they briefly talk about all the potential complications for the bacteria that they're going to need
Mm-hmm.
for the
Mm-hmm.
mini makers and for whatever,
Right. There's a reason why it hasn't been
for
done before.
concubine, the girl on the side.
Oh, could be.
Sounds right.
Could be. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a reason why they haven't been able to move the spice production to another planet, though they get to see that the corruption inside the government's pretty severe because they have internal help with the guild and everyone else trying to move it. So,
Uh, Yeah, and part of me just wanted him to flex and just be like, it's all mine. You guys get nothing. And them to be like, hasta la vista, baby. And like start blowing stuff up. That way I get my fight scene.
yeah.
But instead, they were all like, subterfuge, face dancer. I can see
Hmm.
the future.
Hmm.
And I stole your worm. Which is
Uh,
fine, but it leaves it to where like I need more, and hopefully we continue.
I'm I'm going to keep going. But yeah, we'll see. Children of Dune is good. God Emperor of Dune is where it's at, book 4.
I kind of
So
felt like that's what this almost should have been
God
because
Emperor.
like we were the prophecy, we were there, we had the
Hmm.
power, but due to the guild and everybody else who we're trying to play nice with, and we're
Yeah.
also trying to blow up.
Yeah. It definitely was a different flavor, interesting perspective, getting to see him run his empire, and the relation between government and the church. And I feel there's a lot of um, references there, um, between, or yeah, a lot of good lessons in leadership and statecraft from um, this book, but it's very politically heavy. It's not the fighting that we get.
Oh,
Um,
you clicked it same time I clicked it.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, we know. We joke about this. Need more fight scenes in every
yep,
book.
yep. That's why you like your lit RPG so much, right? Constantly
Yeah,
fighting.
yeah. And that, and they feel more real by adding the stats, and you to be like, oh yeah, he did get that new sword with that armor penetration. That's wrecking this guy, or
Hmm.
oh yeah, that epic level fireball did nothing because of his
Right.
resistance, and that yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
we. How many people did we kill? I guess the face dancer, killed a couple people, stole their face. And I
Hmm.
guess the stone burner burned out a couple eyes, which set Paul up for his I'm trapped in the void
Yes. Yes. Um,
mind
yes.
games versus physical battle.
Definitely, this was a book of mind games,
Yeah, which
and
is not my
posturing,
flavor.
and maneuvering of other people, and kind of like guiding them to where they need to go mentally. Um, yeah. No.
So, or well, no, yeah, that's how it was. But I was just thinking the irony of like the Bene Gesserit have their programming or their upbringing, and we get to see a little bit of the extreme of that with the daughter or Paul's sister
Mm,
when she's in heat and essentially is trying to burn off all that energy and go up against the robot that's not a robot, or a
yeah.
robot that's not an AI, and you get to see all of the training implements for how to learn how to learn, and that way you don't have like initial muscle reflexes, you don't give away, you don't wear your geek on your sleeve, you don't have that eye twinge, or you don't highbrow them,
Mm-mm.
or that ooh shiny moment. They're in control. But then
Yeah.
you have the oh Mented, where they take data and they can only speak truth. But then you have the Sardaukar or whatever
Hmm.
that are all philosophy, and
Uh,
it's
the Sardaukar
or
are
sorry, what is
the previous emperor's elite warriors. You're
then not that
thinking of
guy.
like the Zen Zuni
Yeah,
philosophers. Um, yeah, yeah.
and they're all like specialty conditioned to play a role and get to a
Hmm.
certain end goal, but the only time they're ever valid is inside Paul when they're, going all Captain Planet with our powers combined.
Yeah. We really do get a taste of the world though. Even though we spend all of it again on Dune slash Arrakis, everything comes to Dune. You get to see the outer world. You get to see a little bit of the jihad through the different Fremen warriors, like the one that Paul meets with and the one that the face dancer meets with. In addition to kind of like their military structure that they have, and that's all setting us up for the next couple books. Like a Bashar is like in a way like the equivalent to a general, but higher in a way almost. Um, and then we get to see kind of like the impacts on the Fremen. Like part of what made the Fremen such amazing warriors was living in like this very
Yeah,
challenging
environment.
environment, right? Like the pretty much for generation upon generation they were living in the extreme elements of where they had to recycle their body's moisture just to survive and to save it, and that like only the strong prospered because like leaders would challenge each other to be, the new leader, and then those are the ones that breed and, create these intense, incredibly strong warriors. And now, like they've won, we're just seeing the next generation be raised, and we get to see a little bit of that. So you kind of get to see the direction this is going. And one of the things that I enjoy so much about this series is this 12 years is the first little time hop that we get. Book 3, we get another little bit of a time hop, and then from then on, we get significant time hops, and you just get to see, you know,
The
everything on
impact.
this, yeah, this micro level to a macro level of the universe and cause and effect and the impact, and not just the genetic engineering, breeding, but also the social,
Well,
manipulation
that's
and
one of the
breeding.
things that irks me about this series. It's an interesting concept, and don't get me wrong, but the Jedi, for example, like, yes, you have the innate power, and then you train it, you work on it, I guess kind of like typical life. You go to school, you hone your skills, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess a little bit of the oh, the I want to say mentat, where they train themselves how to, control their emotions and do all that, but
Sure,
it's only the
sure.
select ones through the breeding, through the genetic diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, sorry, this is backwards, forwards, just like everyday life. And that's why people need to read books. Sorry, full line of thought was I was talking about how in Paul, you have all the Mentad, the oh, people who can see the future. Anyway, so people need to read books because it allows you to broaden your horizon and see things from a different perspective. And in books, nothing's personal. And I feel like majority of people take everything personally, and then you end up with that fight or flight muscle tension where you instantly react and you do things a certain way. But due to all the books I read and fantasy versus reality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a little more open to seeing things from a different perspective and not taking things personally
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. I think one of the messages as well that Frank Herbert was trying to get across, like as much as we're rooting for the Atreides and Paul, there's something to be feared about extremely charismatic leaders. Like his charisma, his drive, his ability to inspire people led to this jihad. And he even talks about it a little bit with Stilgard, where they talk about like the golden age of humanity back on Earth and Hitler's reign and Genghis Khan's reign, and they're like, those are rookie numbers. Like you're talking in the millions. Like Paul Atreides and his jihad was like the tens of billions that got.
Well, they were
um,
stuck on one planet at that point,
True,
so they can only
true,
conquer so many. But yeah,
true. But yeah, yeah. Case in point, though, like fear the charismatic leader and the fallout of what could come from it. So,
yeah, and that's one of those. Sidestep, Stormlight Archive. You have Amaranth, who
Mm-hmm.
only shows his best side and kills anybody who knows anything extra.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those very much like too good to be true kind of moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's a short book. I feel like we've hit a lot of the key points. What else do you feel we needed to touch on to do Messiah justice?
Mm, So they kind of, at the end, they leave it up in the air because Paul, throughout the whole time, is like, I will decide who will sit on my throne. Yes, it's my
Mm-hmm.
throne. No, you can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up with two kids who are going to be raised by someone else, not the sister. The dad goes off into the desert. The mother dies during childbirth. And there was no like, this is my heir. And the whole reason for that was to separate, and that way the guild and everybody else couldn't hold that over him and he could separate from it. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't add up for me because he was like, this is mine. I'm going to choose my heir.
Right.
Just kidding. Me and my wife are dead, but I have kids, but they're with this Fremen person.
He
So in my
set up
mind,
a group to kind of like raise them. Like you'll have,
you just kill them and
yeah,
they're dead and
yeah.
they're gone. Or you kill whoever's raising them, or you kidnap them, or whatever, whatever. Like, he kind
Mm-hmm.
of took like this all powerful, see the future, master Jedi,
Yeah,
and you're like, here, this is a savage.
yeah,
Have fun. And
yeah.
I guess the sister's still there, but
You still have the
and
sister. You
Gurney or
have
Duncan.
his wife, the Bene
No, she's
Gesserit.
dead.
No, no, no. Well, that's his wife, but his wife,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Bene Gesserit,
But
um,
she,
she's devoted herself. They say at the end that she's devoting herself to raising the kids and mentoring them. And then you also have Stilgard. So you have a
okay,
Fremen,
I
a
guess we
Bene
have.
Gesserit, and an actual Atreides, all helping raise the twins, Leto and Ganima.
Who are already full people or old souls or
Consciousness, yeah, they're conscious. Mm-hmm.
several generations slammed
Um,
into a infant's body.
yeah, yeah. Imagine trying to raise those kids where they know more than you. Like, good luck telling them anything. Gosh.
No, at that
Um,
point, it's just don't die. Don't let them die. Not
hmm
really
And
raising them.
keep the empire from crumbling in the process, right?
True, true.
So, final thoughts? You think we should continue the series, Pete?
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested in the series, and like I said at the beginning, the end of this made me want more because we just went through the whole Duncan, Idaho bit where he's
Mm-hmm.
a Gola, but then he
Mm-hmm.
comes back, and that's just like one way of doing it. And I could very easily see Paul being like, I'm free, I'm done. And then getting a massive dose of melange and going into a spice coma. And
Yeah.
then seeing, generations into the future. And yeah, coming back.
Mm-hmm.
As well as I'm curious to see if the guild is successful with the worm they took
Mm-hmm.
and if they're able to make something of it or the opposite of with our powers combined, oops, I oh, what is it, Powerpuff Girls,
Uh,
you know
bump, bump,
sugar spice,
ba-na-na-na.
what chemical X, and that one
Yeah.
worked out. But anyway, extra effects that you can't control because the spices work because that's how the ecosystem works.
Hmm.
But then you take it to a different planet, and now there's other species vying for dominance or other bacterias or things you can't factor that make us super spies
It's a sign of a
in
good
limited
book
quantities.
when you get like enough satisfaction yet want more, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, yeah.
we got that. It
I
wasn't,
wasn't thrilled with the book, but the ending made me want more.
yeah. That being said, something we are thrilled and excited about is coming up next week.
Oh,
Cue it,
sorry.
Pete.
I didn't do that.
Speaking of which, we didn't play our intro this time, did we?
No,
Oh, we did.
no,
Okay.
I didn't. Or we did the spoiler warning for the one now, but then I didn't
Mm,
click the button.
oops. Oops. Sorry, guys. Um,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I,
open everything died. Sorry if I
oh,
disappear.
we killed it.
Oh, just
Anyway,
kidding. There we go.
oh, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Next
Well,
week,
bam. Except for that's a 6.
we are doing, for the first time, a theory crafting stream. Just found out that Brandon Sanderson has published some of the
Prologue.
yeah, on audio format, our preference on YouTube for us to go and listen to. We'll try to share that through our different social media pages. Really hope our Stormlight Archive fans can join us for some theory crafting, do a bit of geeking out, getting ready for book 4 to drop next month. And
This is
yeah,
going to be a long one. Like, this is
mm,
probably a long haul. This is no hold barred. Let's deep
all
dive, talk about all of it.
all on the
Yeah.
table, right? All there to be said and talked about. Really looking forward to it. Here soon, we're going to start getting ready for next month's lineup. So if you have requests, get them in on our Discord. Links down below. Um, yeah. Am I missing anything, Pete?
We need to figure that out and do like a poll. Kind of
Sure.
like we
Sure.
have a lot of books that we haven't covered yet. Currently, we're trying
Yeah.
to continue our series and be like, hey, these are all things we like. Do you like any of them?
Sure.
But and or have like a initial poll, like first X amount of books, get a slot. Now that you have a slot, please continue to vote. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's a work in progress, trying to figure it out on the back end.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of doing this is we enjoy it. I don't have enough people to talk about books about, and some of the quotes I end up saying, oh, that's what we forgot. We forgot a quote for this book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But fear is a mind killer, I guess, is kind of like the Benny Gesserit, or really the whole lineup for this series so far. And I would have to say yes. Like, fear is there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but now that you realize that you have fear, you need to own it and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Pick the first in a series of something you like. Oh, so we have time to read it first.
Yeah. Definitely can do that. There's a lot of good series that we enjoy and would love for more people to jump on the bandwagon with. We got a couple different ones going. Um, and maybe instead of finishing some of those out, we can rotate in some new ones. So, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As always, thanks to everyone who joined us for the live stream. Thank you to everybody who watches this after the fact. Your feedback and support is always appreciated. And yeah, hope to geek out with you guys again here soon.
By
Bye.